Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Flipping Tables. You know, I'm your boy, Javi. This is your other boy, Bern. And today we want to be talking about toxic friendships. I know some of the youth, especially in our church and our class, were asking about that. So let's just ask the first question. How do I know if my friend is being toxic?
And this one's a deep one, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I feel like the better question should be is like, how do I identify my friends? And the reason I say that is because I've always taught this to folks that there's 3 different people that run into your life. And they all seem like they're your boys. They're all going to seem like they're your friends. Some people love you for who you are. Mm-hmm. They love you. They love everything about you. They love the things you do. They love you, man. They just love you. They care about you, right? Mm-hmm. But then you have all those friends who love the things that you love. You know, so if you're in worship, they are down to do whatever because you're both in worship. Mm-hmm. And they love practicing. They love playing. They love doing whatever. Then if it's sports, they all love playing the game. They're all competitive. And because you have a competitive nature, they love it too. Mm-hmm. But then you have those that just dislike or they hate the things that you hate. Mm-hmm. You know, so because you're in agreement, scripture says like when 2 have the same vision, they have the same goal in mind, they can easily walk in that direction, right? Right. So I feel like most of the time, whether it's because they love you, because they love the things that you love, or because they hate the things that you hate, scripture's still very true when it says that the things that 2 people work together on, they're going to be able to accomplish those things. So for me, the hardest thing is identifying who's who. Yeah. Because it's easy to know that everyone is your friend, but to what extent, to what level? Yeah. So how do you know if your friend's being toxic? There's a whole bunch of things that come to mind. The first one that I'm going to talk about is when the person tends to be very manipulative. You know, when they tend to manipulate you. Mm-hmm. And what that means is that they're always trying to control the relationship. They're always trying to control what you do, when you do, how you do it. You know, it's normally a one-sided type of drive when it comes to it. They're not looking for your interest. They're really just looking for what interests them. Right. And they're hoping or they're using you to get there. To further their agenda, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I like what you said. I mean, I personally, I don't feel like I've dealt with toxic friendships. Yep. You know what I mean? Because I don't throw that word around so loosely. Yeah. Which we hear it so common nowadays, right? Oh, you're toxic and she's toxic and this is a toxic relationship and this is a toxic friendship, whatever the case, right? Like, yeah. Like you said, you have to really evaluate who your friends are. Thinking back really quickly, like in high school, man, I had so many friends. But once you graduate high school, you start to do your own thing, either go and, you know, start working or you go to college or whatever you do. Yep. You really realize who are your real friends. You know what I mean? Like I have maybe 5 or 6 friends that I might talk to on a regular basis, and even maybe 2 or 3 that I don't talk to like that often. But when we do connect, it's like nothing ever happened. You know what I mean? Like we were just hanging out yesterday. That's how it feels, you know? So really evaluate who your friends are. And I Googled what toxic friendships were, like what it could look like. And it said toxic friendships can take different forms, but they generally drain you mentally and have a way of bringing you down instead of building you up. So just that's one of the main things, right? If whenever you hang out with them, whenever you're around them or they're around you, if you feel drained mentally, if you feel bad about yourself by the time you leave, they never add anything to your life. They just take away. Yeah. Then that's how you honestly can kind of come to a conclusion like, okay, this is not a good relationship for me. Yeah. Right. This is something that's affecting me. And this is something that's toxic.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I'll give you a good example. And this kind of falls like with my wife, right? One thing that we conversated about and we've like worked on our relationship a lot. Obviously, this is my wife, right? Mm-hmm. But it's when we talk to each other. Mm-hmm. If it gets to a point where she only talks and I'm always listening, but I never get to open up and actually, you know, pour my heart out and vent out what I need to get out, it becomes one-sided, you know? And that's kind of what I was talking about. It's and sometimes it's vice versa, right? Where I come home and I'm excited about work and I'll tell her something about work. She gets tired of hearing me talk about work. Gets to a point where she's like, all right, for the next week, let's not talk about work, you know? I saw this reel that said something along the lines of sometimes I wish that my wife had a top secret job working for the government, so she's not allowed to talk about anything, you know? But I laughed about it, but the truth of the matter is that that's probably Kenya reading that about her, about me, you know? So it's like, I was just like, wow, I know how she feels now, you know? It hit me hard.
She can't share nothing.
Exactly. So it's like, at the same time, you know, it can't be a one-sided relationship. When you, like, it's just like what you said right now, like, you have to be able to feel like that person's pouring into you and allowing themselves to be poured into as well, right? It has to give a give and take type of relationship, not just a one-sided thing.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, depending on the stage of life, right? Like your ages mainly, you'll start to realize, like, dang, she, you know, this friend of mine, she only calls me when she wants to go get coffee, and you end up paying for the coffee. So maybe she's only using you to get a meal or a drink or a ride.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what are you doing? I actually need a ride. Can you drop me off? And it's like, you only hit me up when you need a ride.
Yeah.
So, or maybe in school, it's only like, you only talk to me when you have a homework due.
Yeah.
You're trying to copy off my answers.
A project or something.
Yes. You know what I mean? So it's like, they don't really want to have a friendship with you to get to know you, or because they like you and they have the same interests. It's just, they're trying to use you. They're taking something away. Yeah. Another part of that definition was, if you have a friend who frequently criticizes you or manipulates you, acts selfishly, lies or distorts the truth, or refuses to take responsibility for their actions, that's how you know that's a toxic friend.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny because we were talking about it earlier, but again, I don't think I've ever really dealt with toxic friends, because my personality and my character is very much reserved. So I'm okay with sitting in the background, being quiet and just observing people. Yeah. Just kind of like, man, that girl talks too much. I don't want to be her friend. She's probably going to talk my ear off. Or that guy, he's really cocky. I don't like it because, you know what? I can talk a little too, so that might cause some problems, right? A little back and forth. I'm not really gonna like him. So you know what? Avoid that problem. I'm not really gonna be that cool with him. So I'm like that. So I kind of, you know, keep an eye on the room. I listen, and that's how I kind of pick and choose who my friends are, right? Again, similar interests, etc. But I had to really ask myself, like, have I ever been a toxic friend?
No.
At some point, right? Because it said someone who frequently criticizes you.
You're like,
some of my friends know. Like, you know, I can criticize pretty good. I'm pretty good at that. And so I think part of that, it's like, I was sharing with, and Chaka will love this. We went to go ball, right? We went to LA Fitness. We went to go ball with Canelo and Melly and Alex. And, you know, we were hooping. And the first day, actually, I think it was Thursday or Wednesday, we went to go ball. And, man, Canelo, sorry, Nello, but you're not that good. And I was on him, bro, because I'm competitive. I'm competitive in sports.
I missed it.
Yeah. And so, man, I was on him. My man's just like out of breath. Like, I'm like, bro, I can't believe you're not this out of shape, bro. You know, I'm criticizing him like, bro, don't shoot this, please. Like, you got, you know, I'm on him.
Shots count if
so,
they go in.
You know, but it's like, do I just care about him?
Yeah. Or
because I care about winning?
Yeah.
You know, or am I really like shooting him down? And my brother knows all too well too, like when we played sports, football, when we played soccer, when we played basketball, man, like he had it hard. Like, I'm very tough, you know, and like I'm very demanding. I'm trying to win,
right?
You know, like if you think about Kobe, because he was my favorite player, I probably learned that from him.
Yeah.
Like, you know, tough on his teammates. He doesn't care if his teammates hate him. He didn't care. He's like, I know they love these 5 rings that we got. Facts. they love these 5 banners we put up in the Staples Center.
That Mamba mentality.
Exactly. So I feel like that's why I'm like that. But I really had to reflect, like, while we're looking at this, I'm like, man, am I a toxic person? Have I ever, and be honest with yourself. Like, have I ever used a person for, to get what they had, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was like a ride, whether it was to use their services, whether it was to get to a certain place in life, and you never really poured anything. And so we also have to reflect, like, we can't be victims all the time too.
Of course.
We also got to be like, man, was I ever like messed up? Did I ever use this person? But that example came to mind because I'm, even one of the youngins, like, hopefully he hears this. And, he didn't want to play with me the next day.
Right.
Because I was on him, and he was like, man, he just doesn't respond well to that. Right. He was like, right. But now I know that, now I know, like, man, I can't go that hard. I can't go that hard on him. Right. Or like, even like after the games, I'd be like, bro, like, the reason why I'm telling you this is so you can do this and this. Like, I'm trying to get you easy buckets. I'm trying to get you easy points, but you're just not listening.
Right.
Right. So in the manner that we speak to, like, that I spoke to him, maybe he just wasn't responding that well. Right. Yeah. But I had to internal, like, this is hitting me, as we're putting this out, like, this is hitting me. Cause I'm like, I have to really, if I want to be a good friend, if I want to be a good mentor, if I want to be a good leader, man, I really have to see, like, the way I talk, the way I, the faces that I make, my tone of voice, all of that, I have to really be careful with.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it right in the head right there, because at the end of the day, it's like there's a difference between constructive criticism, mm-hmm. right, and then just criticizing somebody.
Yeah,
because sometimes when you just start to criticize, people tend to feel like they're being belittled. Mm-hmm. For their actions forever. A lot of stuff like that you're gonna see in friendships that you have. Let's just call it, like, I was in worship for several years, mm-hmm. right? And if I'm gonna be raw with it, the reality is that most of those folks in there, they're really more of an acquaintance than they are friendships. Mm-hmm. Because yes, we've known each other for 10, 15, 20 years, whatever the time might be, but the quantity of time doesn't reflect the quality of a relationship, mm-hmm. that we have. In other words, it's one thing to show up and practice once a week, twice a week with them, play with them 3 hours out of the week, but outside of church, what are we doing? It's nothing. Right. So sometimes when you really think about it, I've seen it in soccer too. Sometimes we get these rec leagues that we be doing, right? Mm-hmm. We get excited, we start winning. We'll win the league. We'll win another. All of a sudden, we want to go to the next level. And what happens? We start booting out people and adding people who are more aggressive, people that can play better touch better, to the point where I'm just like, man, why am I still the team? How come they got rid of me yet?
On the bench.
So at the end of the day, it's like, for me, I understand it because I grew up playing competitive sports. Mm-hmm. I grew up knowing that there's a first string, a second, a third string, and I respect that level of stuff, But you do that to someone who might be young, who maybe never played in a competitive situation, they're going to see it as man, they betrayed me. They literally traded me in for someone else, mm-hmm. that was better than me. Yeah. And they weren't even cool about it. They just say, hey, we're done with you. Thank you for the opportunity, mm-hmm. Deuces.
They just took you out the group chat.
Exactly. Like, you left the group chat without leaving the group chat. So when it's like that, people can feel like they're being betrayed because they feel like they might have felt like it was a different level of a relationship, mm-hmm. when in reality, we were all there just for the soccer. Mm-hmm. It was for the love of playing the game, not so much because we loved you as a person.
Right.
And I think that's the most important thing. To be able to identify really who's your friend, mm-hmm. and who's just there for the situation, who's just there for what you guys are having fun doing.
Yeah, for that time being too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, next question says, what should I do if I have a toxic friend?
Man, this is the big one for me, right? I say this a lot. I got this. I won't take credit for this because I got this line from Toby and Weeway. I'm gonna shout him out. He probably has no idea who I am. But in one of his songs, or one of his lyrics, he says, don't give CPR to dead situations, and bro, sometimes we just gotta learn how to live by that. If I'm gonna talk to you guys, we need to learn to not give CPR to death situations, because sometimes it's hurting you, it's stopping you, it's not allowing you to grow spiritually, and yet you continue to pour energy and your life into this relationship when you know that it's not taking you nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, if the person, just like we said, sometimes it's very evident that they bring nothing to the table, but somehow you feel the need to just have them in your life, and you put up with whatever they're doing to you just so that you can have them there, just so they can be part of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just got to be able to let go and cut off the dead weight.
Yeah, let go and cut off the dead weight. That looks like what? Like, it looks like what? Distancing yourself?
Distancing yourself. Sometimes letting it go completely.
Yeah.
Sometimes just acknowledging, you know what? It's not the right fit. Maybe it's not the right season in our lives for us to be close like that. Now, I'll give you a couple of perfect examples. I have friends who, when I first moved to Maryland, a couple of guys that we made a conscious effort to connect. And it was actually more on his end.
Okay.
Right? He tried to reach out. He tried to be my friend. And just because of the difference in cultural differences, in the beginning, I was just like, okay, cool, we can hang out. As time went by, we got along really well. As we got married, we started having children, and eventually we started parting ways.
Yeah.
And I say that because, financially, he was growing much faster than I was, and as much as we wanted to reconnect, we were just at two different lifestyles. I couldn't keep up with his lifestyle.
Right.
And as much as we wanted to work together, as much as we wanted to be close together, it just didn't pan out. And even after we made multiple attempts to make it work, in the long run, 3-4 months later, it would affect me in a very negative way financially. So it got to the point where I was like, you know what? I have to stop trying to make this happen. It's not going to happen. I have to move at my own pace, and I'm going to get to where I want to be at, but it's going to be at my pace. So at a certain point, I was just like, you know what? Let's just stop it right here, and I'm going to go do me, and you continue to do you. And we'll leave it at that. No hard feelings, Whenever I see him, I still hug it out. I still love him. I still have a lot of like, when I see him, it makes me happy to see him. And I can pick up just like if it was yesterday, But it doesn't mean that I go on trying to plan my whole life with him, because I know that it's not going to happen. We're just two worlds apart.
Yeah. I think another key thing you said is, when you see him, you still get happy and you hug it out, and you show him love, because that's another thing, we're here as children of God to show his love. Right. So just because somebody did you dirty, or you feel like you were being used or you were manipulated, apart from just distancing yourself because they're not adding anything to your life.
Yeah.
You also have to love them and forgive them.
Yep.
Maybe that friend of yours wasn't like doing it on purpose, as far as like, oh, I'm going to try to make him belittle him because he's not earning like I am, and I can afford to go eat here, but he can't, or do whatever, right? Or travel and he can't come. Maybe he wasn't doing it like that, but at some point, like, you were like, I just can't keep up, right? So, but you still have to love and forgive them.
Yeah.
Because I mean, some people do it on purpose. Some might not even know they were being toxic, right? Correct. So, I think that's another key thing. So, get some distance create some distance between that friend, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And also love and forgive them, for whatever, because if not, in the long run, you're really like, they might not, especially if they had no idea they were being toxic towards you.
Yeah.
They moved on with their life, bro. They're happy wherever they're at.
And you're still,
you're salty.
You're over there salty, holding on to that,
salty. 10 years later, you're still salty.
You're still looking back, straight up salt statue.
Exactly. So love and forgive them, because at the end of the day, the one that's going to benefit from that is yourself.
Yeah.
Your heart. Because you're not holding on to that bitterness.
Yeah.
What's another thing that we could do if we were to?
I want to say that one of the biggest things that to me comes to mind is, sometimes in Spanish, and there's a saying, right? Hablando todo se entiende, right? You have to be able to speak up about what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Sometimes people kind of hold in, and never let it out to the point where you can't hold the other person accountable for something that you never shared, for something that you never pointed out, and sometimes you just expect people to read your mind and like magically just start doing what you want,
Right.
or to support you the way that you want to support. But truth of the matter is that nobody knows what you need unless you speak up and you open your mouth and you tell them. So to me, it's like communication. Improving your communication has to be key to everything.
Yeah.
And part of that communication is going to be setting boundaries, knowing what your boundaries are going to be. But you have to have you have to know what you want in a relationship, in a friendship. You have to know what you want. And shoot, man, I'll go as far as tell you you need to write it down. You need to write it down because sometimes it gets to a point where, look, I want to talk to you about these 4 things, but I forgot the other 2. So let's just talk about 2. Well, if you yourself don't care about the things you need to talk about, how can you expect the other person to magically read your mind and to care about it? That's just, it doesn't work that way. So I think first and foremost, you have to know what you want, know what your boundaries are, and set those boundaries with that person and communicate everything. Those will be my keys to making sure that you're addressing that toxicity and eliminating if possible.
Yeah. I think the other thing would be also to, while you're communicate in truth.
Yeah.
Right. Like communicating the truth as far as to like how you feel, why you feel like that, again, so that other person can understand. Facts. And maybe, again, they're not doing it on purpose, but they can adjust or change. If you are actually truly friends, you can adjust and maybe, again, set some boundaries that won't continue to hinder that, that relationship, that friendship.
Yeah.
So if we want, we'll jump ahead to the next one. So it says, how can friends be toxic if they care about me?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. I want to say that habits and behaviors are not necessarily the person's character. Does that make sense? Like they might have bad habits. They might have behaviors that they do that they've created just because the way they live their lifestyle, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, like you mentioned right now, that they're being toxic. Yeah. They may not know it.
Right.
So I feel like the word toxic just gets thrown around so easily nowadays. Everything is toxic, and I feel like it's important to understand what it really means, because a lot of the stuff that you find when you're looking it up, like manipulation, criticism, people that don't support you, people who are jealous of you, when they're doing, they always want to compete with you, people who are only thinking one-sided. Sometimes people will let loose and they'll talk about personal stuff that maybe you weren't ready to share with somebody else. People who are doing that, sometimes it's, I want to say, when someone's intentional about messing with you, they're intentional about it. And it's evident that it was intentional, but sometimes you get folks who aren't doing all these things. They might do 1 or 2. And it's important for you to know if they're even aware. If the person is being aware that they're doing it, then perhaps you have to question, do they really value you as a person?
Right. Do they really care? Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're saying, how can friends be toxic if they care about me? Well, number 1, do they care about you? And number 2, do they know that they're being toxic? Because those 2 things can't go together. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, and at the end, it's like, did you set the boundaries? Did you tell them what the issues that you're having with their behavior? Because if you haven't, again, how can you hold them accountable to it?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So to me, it's like, first you have to figure out if it's truly someone who cares about you before you can say, how can they be a combo of both?
Yeah. I think honestly, the other thing, and I was thinking about this also a few days ago, was with certain friends, is like, how did we become friends?
Yeah.
Did we become friends because we ended up on the same basketball team, or on the same soccer team, because we were in the same class, or did we become friends through another mutual friend, and you know, he's funny, I'm funny, so we just got along. Like we roast everybody.
Yeah.
You know, so like seeing, I think going back and kind of taking inventory about like how you actually became friends with that person will also tell you a lot, because you talked about their actions and things like that. So like imagine if, you know, you only became friends, or they only became friends with you because you always gave them a piece of gum.
Yeah.
So once you stop giving them a piece of gum, you know, that's when you'll really be like, okay, he's actually my friend because he still talks to me, or I'm still, you know, I haven't done this nice thing for them, or I haven't given them anything and they're still hanging around. Or as soon as you stop doing that one thing, they dip, you know? So then you're like, oh, they were really just here because I was providing this gum, or whatever the, you know, the case may be. So, really kind of analyzing that, like how you became friends, to sort of, you know, kind of realize again, are they just using you? Are they taking something away from you? Or are they actually interested in the things you're interested in? And they actually want to see you win. They actually want to see you succeed. And they share, maybe they're at a different stage in life, and maybe they share their tips or things that they've learned to help you grow and help you like mature and be like, bro, I don't want to see you go through this. And this is how I went through that, and this is how I handled it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love what you said early in the very beginning of this. You know, it's like sometimes we're just asking the question, oh, what if that person's toxic? What? But you started off by saying, what if I'm the toxic one? Right? Like, how do I know that I'm not being the toxic one? I would say, like, sometimes it's, you have to be able to assess your whole relationship with each person, because it's going to be different for everybody. You know, like the relationships that I have with you, that I have with some of the other teachers, it's going to be a little bit different. I spend a lot more time with you, you know? So like to be able to compare it with one of the teachers that helps us, it can't be the same. Right. Because the amount, the quality and the quantity of the time that we're putting into our relationship, it's not going to be the same amount. So you can't build something that's not there, something that you're not putting work into. Right. That's one. But let's say at work, I spend a lot more time with people at work than I do with you. Right. Because I see them 40 to 60 hours a week. So when I'm putting in time next to someone who's laboring next to me, you tend to build a lot of relationships too, right? So we can take it like for kids that are watching us, the younger crowd that's watching us, right? When you're in school and you're spending 6 hours, 7 hours with somebody, you're going to football practice, you're doing it, you're building that camaraderie just like I do at work. That's the reality of it, you know? But at the same time, you have to be mature enough to say, okay, why do we have a relationship to begin with? Is it because we're both on the football squad? Right. Is it because we both love the game? Or is it because we have an actual bond?
Like a bond. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's the reality of it. Like I can sit there and say, hey, there's some really cool people at work. We get along really well. But the truth of the matter is that we're all there to make a paycheck. The moment that one of us starts playing with the other's money, you think it's going to be the same?
Different. Yeah, it's different.
The moment that I drop the ball and everyone else stops making money, it's going to be on. At the end of the day, it kind of goes to what I said before, right? Sometimes people love you for who you are. Sometimes they love you for what you love. And sometimes they just hate the things that you hate. Well, guess what? Everyone at work hates being broke. I don't like being broke either. You know what I'm saying? So we're all working towards one goal, which is to make that bread. Exactly. So if you're thinking that everyone at work is your best friend, oh my goodness, I'm telling you right now, they're not your friends. They're your acquaintances. You're very close with them because you have a camaraderie with them. But at the end of the day, they're all there for a paycheck. If you start messing with their money, it's going to be on like Donkey Kong. You know, they're going to be hands being thrown, elbows going to be thrown. It just gets tough at that point.
Yeah. And again, we're older, so we can talk about like, you know, grown adult scenarios, right? Work and marriage and etc. But for the younger crowd, it's your friends in school. And it's okay. Like if you have a friend and you care about that person, but that person is being toxic with you, you have to really like come to a decision and say, I can't do this anymore. You know what I mean? Like you have to cut it off. You have to be able to say, you have to part ways and be like, it's not good for my health at the end of the day, right? You got to be okay with letting go. And right now that you said acquaintances, like I remembered it like years ago, and this is a relationship thing, but with one of the girls that I dated, we were really good friends growing up. like really good friends. And then we caught feelings. We started talking, dating. But the way that relationship was going, it wasn't good. It was toxic, right? So it got to a point where I was like, what you did is not what friends do. So I can no longer be your friend.
Yep.
You're my acquaintance now. I'll be respectful. I see you. I say hello. I truly care about you, and I hope that you do well. But I can't have you around me because I know myself. I'm just gonna keep playing myself.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with friendships too. Like you really care about this friend, and you want to see them succeed. And they might want to see you succeed, but maybe they just don't know they're being toxic. They just not mature, whatever. Maybe for that time period, you got to be able to say, I got to do me. And you gotta, as tough as that decision is, it's the best decision because you're just going to keep playing yourself. You're going to keep hurting yourself instead of like healing and growing and maturing.
Facts.
And letting that other person mature too. Because trust me, when you lose good people in your life because you've messed up, you remember that.
You feel it.
And you're like, man, if I ever get this opportunity again, I'd never want to miss that up.
You're not going to drop the ball after that.
You're not going to want to miss that. So, that's part of life. And if you're a good person and let's say you do have a toxic friend and they're the ones, like, I guarantee you, if you walk out of their life, they're going to feel some type of way and they're going to say, man, I never want to, that was such a special friend. I never want to go through that again. Yeah. Like I never want to miss out on or messing up a friendship. Like what's it called? Like burning down your bridges.
Exactly. Right? And I'll say this too, right? Because sometimes that person, when they come to a realization, like, oh snap, this guy was vital to me, to the way I function, right? They're gonna come knocking on the door, and I'm not the type of person that is going to encourage people to like, oh no, don't give them a second chance. I mean, we all got second chances, right? We all get chances from God. Yep. God's good to us. And scripture says that we should forgive one another, right? The way that Christ forgave us and the way the Lord forgives us, right? So I would say that sometimes you want to be able to give the person another opportunity.
Right.
But make sure that you're not repeating the same thing over and over, expecting different outcomes. Right? That would just be insane. That's literally the definition of insanity. So the thing would be is if you are going to give a second opportunity, set the boundaries. And if those boundaries are crossed, if those boundaries aren't respected, then at that point, you know they didn't come back for you. They came back for what they needed. They came back for a fix. That was really it. So do they love you? Or are they just addicted to the things that you provide? Because there is going to be people knocking on doors, but fool me once, it's shame on you. You fool me twice, it's shame on me. And at that point, again, it's about maturity. Like you said, you have to be able to be ready to take those next steps and to be able to say, you know what, I got to man up and just move on to the next one, move on with life, and they can't be part of it. Yeah. It's a tough decision, but it has to be made. And one more thing that I'll say on that is like, your character and my character is very similar. Like I just like you said, you're okay with being in the back of the room, just observing, keeping to yourself. I can run my mouth all day when I'm comfortable with somebody. If I'm put in a room and everyone's talking about La Liga and soccer, I want to be the most quiet person because I ain't got nothing to say. You know what I'm saying? Like, what am I going to talk about? Like, soccer's not my thing.
Exactly.
But you talk about football, I'm going to feel very comfortable. You talk about work, I'm going to be super comfortable. Talk about sales and presentations and all that stuff, I'm a dog at that. I love talking about that, When it comes to coaching and mentoring scripture, I could talk all day. The point I'm trying to make is that it's not the same for you to feel comfortable than it is for you to step out your comfort zone and to make sure that you're good, to make sure that you're taking care of your mental health, that you're thinking about your spiritual health, that you're thinking about your physical health, You have to be able to love yourself and put yourself first. And that's the reason why you step away from a friend. It's not because, oh, they did me wrong and I'm out. It's not about that. It like you said, you have to be able to forgive, but the more important thing is like, it wasn't for me. I'm out. Thank you. I'm going to move on. But not to be salty and to be hating people and to hold grudges. Right. That just ain't it.
Mm-hmm. So with that being said, we appreciate you guys tuning back in for another episode. We hope that this message blesses you and that you guys can learn from it, and that you continue to share this with your friends. And don't forget to hit that like button. Comment below if you have any other questions, or if there's any topics that you guys want us to talk about or would like our perspectives on. We'd be more than happy to address them. And
yeah, man.
See y'all on the next one.
Next one.